Alright everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video what I have for everyone is a specs based discussion video on the new iPhone series devices that I am interested in upgrading to when it comes time to upgrade from my iPhone 15 Plus. Let me do some quick housekeeping and then we'll jump into today's discussion based specs based video. So recording the video here today, I am using the video feed from my Cataroo 1080p webcam. Recording the audio today for today's video, I am using the audio coming out of the Comica eJoy Uni D cardioid microphone. Okay. And I am using my professional studio lights today to light up the scene for this video. So please let me know what you guys and gals think of the overall video quality, the overall audio quality, and the overall lighting of this video. As always, all of your feedback is greatly appreciated. Also, any and everything that I talk about and feature in today's video will be linked up down below in the video description, as well as if I can find the cheapest links for any and everything that we talk about in today's video, I'll link them up down below in the video description as well. Also, if I can find affiliated buy links to link up down below, I will do so as well, because those affiliate buy links mean that I get a small percentage of commission that I put back into the channel, and that is at no additional cost to you guys and gals. So I consider those affiliate buy links a win-win for everyone in my opinion. And that being said, some of my favorite content creators have covered the devices in depth that we're going to talk about in today's video. So I will also go ahead and link up some of the coverage down below in the video description from some of my favorite content creators. And if you decide to check out the content linked up down below in the video description and you like it, please give their content a like and please consider subscribing to their channel. I'm sure they will greatly appreciate it. Okay? That being said, housekeeping done, let's dive into today's video. So, I just recently watched all of the latest Apple keynote where they launched the new iPhone 17 series and the new iPhone Air series, right? And along with that, I had to wait for my favorite content creators, sorry, can't talk today, guys and gals. I had to wait for my favorite content creators to drop their coverage. Okay? And now that all of that has been done, I got some time to sit down and go through all the coverage, go through Apple's keynote, and now I want to give you guys and gals my thoughts and opinions based on everything that I've checked out. And also, I want to let you guys and gals know what potential devices I may upgrade to when it's time to upgrade from my iPhone 15 Plus right here. Now, quick eliminator. I know some of you guys and gals are probably looking like, I thought you said in your last update / discussion based video that you were going to update to the iPhone 16e when it was time to upgrade from your 15 Plus. Yes, I did say that. And originally, I was sticking to that, right? I was solidly fixed and upgraded to the iPhone 16e. But then I saw the Apple event. And to me, Apple released two key features that genuinely got me excited and genuinely made me want to upgrade my device. And one of these two key features is a software feature, and as long as the chip can handle the processing, man, I really can't talk today. As long as the chip can handle the processing, this feature can actually be filtered down to older iOS devices, because Apple Silicon and their processors have been beastly and amazing for years. But It's all about whether or not Apple is going to release a software update, which is basically they just have to write up a line of code that they push to their older devices, and then their older devices will get this feature. The other feature is a hardware feature that's only specific to the new Apple iPhones, whether that be the 17 and the 17 Pro and Pro Max or the iPhone Air. That second feature that really got me excited was a hardware feature. Okay? And to be honest with you, one of two of these features has been a feature that I look for exclusively in my content creation device because of the style of content that I cover here on the channel. And I'm going to talk about that in more detail as we go throughout the video. But those two features that I'm going to talk about really got me excited to upgrade. And they basically eliminated the iPhone 16 series for me. Okay? And with that being said, I was also really considering the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max series because for those of you who don't know, I'm going to actually get the pricing out of the way up front right now. I can actually get a iPhone 15 Pro or an iPhone 15 Pro Max for a lot less than what I'm going to ultimately end up paying for this device. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually financing this device through my main carrier, which is Straighttalk Verizon, and I'm locked into that payment program for 24 months. In 2 more months, I would have been paying a year for this device. Alright? And when everything is all said and done, this device is going to run me well over $1,100 after taxes. Right? Now, for the iPhone 15 Pro, I can actually find that for a little bit over $700. For the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I can actually find that for a little bit over roughly $65 to $735. So the Pro series, in my opinion, is way better than the regular series. The only reason why I ended up going with the 15 Plus series is because I wanted the absolute best battery life. And at the time when the 15s came out, the 15 Plus was the device that gave you the absolute best battery life. I didn't really care for the display. For those of you who don't know, I'm more part and parcel to a nice 6-inch display. That's my favorite screen size. You know, I didn't really care for the build or any of that. I was coming from an iPhone 11, and prior to that, I had an iPhone XR. Those were really constructed quite well. So I really didn't care for the build or anything like that. For me, it just came down to the cameras, the battery life, and USB Type-C. Alright? I've been begging Apple to upgrade to USB Type-C for years. So I knew as soon as they dropped the USB Type-C iPhone, as soon as I got the opportunity, I knew I was going up and upgrading to the USB Type-C iPhone. Right? But because I can actually get the Pro 15 or the Pro Max 15, I'm more likely to recommend that over the 15 Plus. Okay? And actually, it's very funny. The Pro 15 and the Pro Max 15 are actually still a lot cheaper than the 15 Plus, which is very funny. And feature-wise, they are the better device. Not just in cameras, but also in features and support. And if I'm also keeping it 100 with y'all, after doing coverage on the 13 Pro Max and seeing how good the battery life was, and surprisingly how good the cameras were. I know, don't judge me. Did you just say surprisingly how good the 13 Pro Max cameras were? Yes, don't judge me, okay? I've been a fan of the primary and ultra-wide camera setup for a while. I'm not really so much into the telephoto and zoom cameras and all that good stuff. Give me a nice primary, give me a nice ultra-wide, and I'm good, okay? So that is why it really eliminated the 16E for me, even though I kind of looked at the 16E as a spiritual successor to the iPhone XR, and the iPhone XR was one of my favorite devices of all time. I actually own two of those. I had a black one and a blue one. I always wanted that coral orange one, but I never could get my hands on that. But the iPhone XR was one of my favorite devices of all time, and the battery life was phenomenal. Right up there with Moto G device battery life or Moto Series device battery life. So yeah. And then I saw the Air. And I'm thinking, wait, whoa, hold up. Now, I know I said the 16E was a spiritual successor to the iPhone XR, but then I saw that iPhone Air, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute now, hold up, Apple, what's going on? What are you doing? And then I saw that single camera, I'm like, oh, this looks familiar. This looks very familiar. And then I saw that front-facing camera, and I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. And then I saw the upgrades to the display. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, baby. And I'm like, okay, this 16E is definitely eliminated from contention. But then as I watched the coverage on the iPhone Air, especially from content creators that use their devices how I would use my device, and then I saw the battery reports and how bad the battery was, and I'm like, okay, nope. So I was kind of thinking, yes, the 16E was a spiritual successor to the iPhone XR, and then I was like, the even better spiritual successor would have been the iPhone Air, and then I got those battery life reports, and then I saw the coverage, and then I saw the battery test, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. And then I'm like, okay, you can always get a battery pack. I got a battery pack. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to depend on that like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pass on that. You know? And I know some of y'all may say, well, just because you saw other content creators and what their particular results were, everybody's different. Your results may be different, better or worse. Who can tell? And I'm like, yeah, you have a point. But like I said, I always try to follow content creators that have a similar usage or workflow to myself. So when they start reporting battery results, I know it's going to be very, very similar to what I get. Okay? And I think out of all the content creators that I follow, the one content creator, aside from Mr. J. Williams, that reported good battery life was Ben from Lover of Tech. Everybody else was like, that battery life is sus. You're going to need that battery pack. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to get that battery pack, even though I already have a battery pack. I don't know if I want to do that. So that pretty much eliminated the iPhone Air. And then, you guys are probably wondering, well, how come you don't have the 17 Pro Max up here? I'm going to keep it a buck. The 17 Pro Max is eliminated because of the price. I'm not dropping that type of money for that device. No. Even though I am a really big fan of the 17 Pro colors, the blue, the orange. Blue and orange are also some of my favorite colors. For y'all that don't know, I am a diehard Knicks fan, okay? I'm originally from Queens, New York, Jamaica, Queens, okay? And I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I'm a diehard Giants fan as well, right? And when I saw those colors get dropped, I was like, oh, that's that New York Knicks orange right there. I'm like, oh, that's that New York Knicks blue right there. I'm like, oh, I like that. But then I'm like, oh, the Pro, the regular Pro gets the same colors. I'm like, oh, I like that. And then I saw the price for the Pro Max, and I'm like, nah, I don't like that. So keeping it a buck with y'all, keeping it straight 100, the Pro Max strictly got eliminated based off of the price. And I am going to go over the pricing, but I'm going to do it at the closer to the end of the video. And specifically when I talk about pricing, I'm going to do it from my main carrier standpoint. Okay? I use two specific carriers. I use Straighttalk Verizon, which runs on Verizon's network, and I use FreeUp Mobile that runs on AT&T's network. The FreeUp Mobile SIM that I use, that's what I call my tester SIM. So when I'm testing devices, when I get in different devices, this is the SIM card that I use. When I'm not testing a device, that SIM card pretty much lives in my Pixel. And my main SIM, which is an eSIM that I was very sad about, that's in my 15 Plus because I basically had no choice. But yeah, those are the two carriers that I use. But because I'm talking about upgrading my main device, when we talk about pricing, I'm going to do it talking about what the pricing would be for me from my main carrier. That being said, your carrier's pricing may be different, or you may find it more cost effective to go with Apple directly and use Apple's financing program. Okay? Your results may vary depending on your carrier and how you want to do that. Okay? Okay. That being said, let's get into this video now. Let's compare some of these key specifications, and let me talk to you guys and gals about the features that really got me excited to upgrade. Okay? Now, let's do this. So, the iPhone 15 Plus is going to be in the middle. This is on gsmarena.com. This is with their phone comparison engine on their website. Okay? The 17, the regular 17, is on the left, and the 17 Pro is on the right. Now, why is this the regular 17 here? Because the regular 17 is basically similar to the 15 Plus. It just doesn't have the 15 Plus battery size. Okay? So they got the primary camera, they got the ultra-wide camera, and they got that new upgraded selfie camera, which is basically very similar to the 15 Plus. Like I said, the 17 is here because it's basically like the 15 Plus, just better, just not as big of a battery. So I have been considering, do I want to do 17 Pro when I upgrade, or do I want to do regular 17? Now I'm leaning more towards the 17 Pro, strictly because of the pricing and the upgraded cameras, right? And I really do like that New York Knicks blue. I know that's not what they really call it, but that's what I call it. But that's why y'all see the three devices here, because I'm going to be comparing the new devices to the device that I already have. Alright? Now, the first upgrade, and I was very sad to see this upgrade, is the SIM card. Okay? Now, Apple has officially done it. Okay? They're doing eSIM everything. And with their iPhone Air, that's eSIM everywhere, the States and globally, right? The only devices that are not eSIM this year are the 17 Pro and the 17 Pro Max if you're in European regions. If you're in the US, you're going to have eSIM for every iPhone, okay? If you're in the European regions, you will still have access, or China, you will still have access to your physical SIM card slot. Okay? But I am very, very sad to see that they went eSIM everything this year. Because in my experience, eSIMs are cool, and depending on your carrier, it's actually very easy to set up, activate, or transfer your eSIM from device to device. But also, depending on your carrier, it can be very cumbersome and complicated. Prime example, certain carriers can give you a setup and a transfer within 2 to 5 minutes, whereas other carriers can take anywhere from 24 hours to 48 hours to upwards of a week to transfer or revert you back if you want to go back to a physical SIM. Whereas just having a physical SIM is so much faster. If I'm done testing a device and I want to switch to a different device, I just pop the SIM card out, put the SIM into another unlocked device, and I'm good to go. The most I would have to do with a physical SIM card is look up the APN settings for specific carriers and put them in manually. Okay? But that's very, very rare. Whereas with the eSIM, you don't get that. And it actually can become very complicated to set up or transfer or revert back your eSIM. So that was an upgrade that I was very, very sad to see. And I'm also very sad to see that a lot of carriers are really pushing eSIMs heavy. Even if, as a customer, you go to them and you have a physical SIM capable device, if it's capable of eSIM, they're going to prioritize the eSIM over the physical SIM. And for certain customers, having the physical SIM is better. Okay? So I'm very, very sad that the smartphone market on the whole is really pushing the eSIM heavy. I'm very sad about that. And Apple is one of the reasons for that. Okay? Apple is kind of a market leader. Whatever Apple does, other companies are looking like, oh, did they get away with it? Oh, they did. And they charge how much? Oh, they got away with that too? Oh, okay. Oh, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. We can up our prices. Not Apple tax high, but we can up it a little bit. And customers will be okay with that because, oh, Apple did it. You know, we want to get some of that too. And, you know, that's what a lot of companies and manufacturers do. Prime example, Apple eliminated the chargers in the box. Companies looking around like, whoa, they did what? Oh, they didn't put no charging brick in the box? Oh, what? They didn't put no case in the box? And they still up the price? Oh, the customer's cool with that? Oh, we doing that too. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. And so, lo and behold, of course, Apple goes eSIM. They looking around like, oh, what? Oh, they did that? Oh, we doing that too. That's what happens when you're a market leader. It's just what happens. So I was very, very sad to see that upgrade. Okay? Other than that, you have your standard upgrades here. So you have an upgraded display for the base and Pro iPhones this year. It went from a 6.1 inch to a 6.3 inch. But what's really nice about the display upgrades is you got higher base brightness and higher peak brightness. So you have a base brightness of 1000 nits, okay? And depending on the situation, it will then peak to between 1600 and 3000 if you use auto brightness. That's very, very nice, and that is a very nice upgrade over my 15 Plus, which has 1000 to 2000 nits. And if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, that 1000 to 2000 nits is perfectly fine and more than usable for how I use my phone here in Florida, especially in direct sunlight. I do not have any visibility issues. But it's really nice to see those improvement upgrades for the display. Another improvement upgrade in terms of the display, all of the iPhones this year have a high refresh rate. So all of the iPhones this year have a 120 hertz high refresh rate. That one I'm not so, excited about because, and I've said it before, I've used multiple devices with high refresh rates, Samsung devices, OnePlus devices, even Apple devices. My 13 Pro Max has the high refresh rate. My eyes can't physically distinguish the high refresh rate. So most of the time, when I get the opportunity to turn the high refresh rate off, for Apple devices, you can't. My mistake. But in Android land, most of the time they give you the option to turn it off. I typically turn it off to save battery. Okay. High refresh rate displays do have a noticeable hit on the battery, especially if they're not done properly. But that is a display upgrade, so I have to point it out for everyone. Maybe you didn't know that. And then also, the last display upgrade is the fact that they now have the newer second generation ceramic shield. And I gotta be 100% honest with you, the first generation ceramic shield, oh, this bad boy was fire, okay? And it continues to be fire. Now, also, keeping it 100 with y'all, I only really use this device without a screen protector for like the initial first week. Other than that, there's always really been a screen protector on my device. But that first week, I was nervous. I was sweating bullets. And to see that the ceramic shield held up no problem, that's pretty good. That's really good. Okay? So those are your upgrades in terms of the displays. Now you can see, if you look on the screen, the ratios, the resolutions, all of that stuff, the screen density, that really has not changed. Okay? All I really talked about is the noteworthy stuff that has changed. Now, moving on, let's talk about the RAM, the storage, and the OS and upgrades. The good stuff and the bad. Okay? So let's start off with the RAM and the storage. Now, RAM-wise, you're going to see there's a noticeable bump. If I go from the 15 to the 17, I go from 6 gigs of RAM to 8 gigs of RAM on the base, or 12 gigs of RAM on the Pro. Alright? So I would go 2 extra gigs on the base, or I would basically double my RAM going with the Pro, because I go from 6 to 12. Alright? So that's kind of what's also leaning me more towards the Pro. And I'm going to explain why in a second here. And then in terms of the storage, and I am very happy to see this, okay? Manufacturers, companies, copy this. I'm going to tell y'all what else to copy as we go throughout this video, but I'm very happy to see this. In terms of storage, the 128 gigs of storage, that's gone. You see this right here? Base storage, 128 gigs, that's gone. Now, Apple has 256 base across their whole lineup, okay? 256 gigs base storage should have been industry standard a long time ago, right? Especially with the fact that a lot of companies and manufacturers are not offering micro SD card expansion. Now, having a base storage of 128 gigs or 64 gigs is different if your device still offers micro SD card expansion. But when you don't offer micro SD card expansion, why do you have 128 gigs as your base storage option? That should have been 256 gigs. So I'm very happy to see that Apple has eliminated their 128 gig models in favor of having a starting point of 256 gigs. And you can see for the base, you either have two options. You have 256 or 512. Whereas for the Pro and the Air, you have 256, 512, and 1 terabyte. Now, for the Pro Max or the Air, you get the option of 2 terabytes. Alright, so those are the differences in terms of RAM and storage. Now, for the Pro, okay, and the Air, you have 12 gigs of RAM, right? And for the Max, you have 12 gigs of RAM, right? So that's what we're talking about in terms of RAM and storage. Very happy to see that. And now let's talk OSs. Let's talk chips first. Coming from the 15, which is running that Apple 16, you're going to get a 3-generation bump all the way up to the A19 or the A19 Pro, depending on which device you want to go with. Now, let's talk about the OS and why I feel Apple needs all of this RAM, because you can see your new devices are starting out with iOS 26. The older devices, at least my 15 Plus, came with iOS 17. And I gotta tell y'all, I wish that I left it on iOS 17. I even wish that I left it on iOS 18, maybe 18.6. Because I gotta tell y'all, iOS 26, Yes, I like the visual overhaul, and I do like some of the new features that they added, but, and there's a big but here, it is a battery hog and a RAM management hog. Since I've been on the latest 26 OS, I've noticed a noticeable hit to the battery, right? Typically, and I'll cover this in more detail in my 15 plus review, but typically on the older software, I was easily getting through a heavy day with anywhere between 16% battery to 20% battery left. Okay. And I was getting anywhere from about 11 hours of screen on time to 16 hours of screen on time, depending on what I had to do. With lighter usage, right, I was easily getting 3 days. Okay. That's on iOS 17 or iOS 18. On iOS 26, now on my heavy days, I'm ending the day anywhere between 5% and 10% battery left. And I'm getting about 10 to 11 hours of screen on time. So there's a noticeable hit with heavy usage to the battery life. On lighter days, instead of getting 3 days, now I'm getting a day and a half, 2 days. Right? And I would equate that to iOS 26. It just eats the battery, man. Certain days I'll be looking at my iPhone like, oh, we perform like an Android device now, huh? It's crazy. And then another thing, and I equate this to iOS 26 as well, the RAM management. The RAM management has been horrible on the latest software update. So I can see why Apple needed to pack in a little bit more RAM on their newer devices, because the RAM management, whew. So they definitely have some improvements and some updates they have to fix to iron out the issues with iOS 26. But I really wish that I kept my device on iOS 17 or iOS 18. And it is really hard to revert back when you have an iPhone, to revert back your iOS OS versions. Really hard. And when Apple kills a version, you can't go back to it. It's not like Android where you go pull up the source code for your device and you load up the tools and you can flash back and forth. As long as you unlock your device, you can flash back and forth. iPhones and iOS are not like that. Once they kill a certain version, you can't downgrade back to it. So, and also with the OS, there were some features that I really, really liked on iOS 17 that went away on iOS 18 and iOS 26. And I really wish that Apple would bring them back. You know, it's the little things. Like, I'm going to give y'all some insight into my daily routine. Typically, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is pray. Okay? You got to give thanks, especially to the Most High. And then I make my bed. And typically when I'm making my bed, I have some music playing. I have some motivational things on my phone. I put my phone in one of my stands. And then I have the slideshow going with some motivational screenshots on it, or some photos from my favorite people. Either or. Sometimes my favorite people ain't up to sending me out a motivational photo. So sometimes you got to do what you do and find a motivational screenshot to get you through. You know what I'm saying? But typically, that's what I like to do. And on the older iOS, it was really nice. They had like a cropping feature to where you can crop your screenshots or crop your photos exactly how you wanted them, and then set that up to be the slideshow crop for your slideshow. So all of the photos, screenshots or otherwise, in your slideshow were cropped exactly how you wanted them to be cropped for that slideshow. Okay? You can always revert it back after the slideshow is done when you ended it, but you cropped it specifically for that slideshow. Now that specific feature is gone. Okay, it wasn't in iOS 18. It's not in iOS 26, and that is something that I really, really enjoy. It's all about the visuals, okay? Okay? The visuals and the words. Okay? But I was very sad to lose that feature, and even worse, I was even sadder to see the hit to battery life and the hit to the RAM management upgrading through the iOS versions. And that's why I say I kind of wish that I left my 15 Plus on iOS 17, because that battery life was phenomenal. The RAM management was really good. It was still a little off sometimes, but it was really good. It was noticeably better than the RAM management on iOS 26. Okay? And be like, oh, well, your battery might be bad because, your battery may have degraded over the 10 months or so that you've owned the device. No, I've only dropped one battery health percentage point. I'll throw up the screenshot for y'all so you can see. And there's no way there should be a dramatic dip in battery life losing one battery health percentage point. No way. Maybe when you drop to 80%, you'll kind of be able to tell the difference. Maybe when you drop to below 80%, like 76, 79-ish, you'll definitely know the difference. But 1% from 100 to 99 and getting such a drastic dip in battery? No. That's why I can equate that to issues with the OS and software. And that's why I could tell you guys, in terms of software, they need some more optimization right there. Okay? So that was an upgrade that I was initially happy about. New software is always something us tech heads get happy about, because that's usually accompanied with features. But I was very saddened because of the battery life hit and the RAM management hit. So I could see why they need 12 gigs of RAM. I see why they might need, 8 gigs of RAM. They probably need to pump some more RAM in there. Now, moving on, in terms of the cameras are pretty much the same. Unless you go with the Pro. The Pro has slightly better lens quality because it's slightly better quality lenses. But the Pro gives you a 48 primary, a 48 ultra wide, and a 48 telephoto. If you stick with the base 17, you're getting a 48 primary and a 48 ultra wide, which is, in terms of the ultra wide, better, because you can see for the 15 we had a 12 megapixel ultra wide and not a 48. So you're getting a better camera if you're upgrading from a 15 series to a 17 series, and you're going to get a noticeably better camera if you're upgrading from a 15 series to a 17 Pro series. Okay? But the biggest upgrade for the cameras this year has to be, and this is one of the features that I was super excited to see, and manufacturers, you need to copy this. The biggest upgrade for the cameras this year is the square 18 megapixel center stage selfie camera. Okay? And what that allows you to do is that allows you to take portrait mode selfie video in landscape while holding your device in selfie mode or portrait mode. So instead of having to turn your device like this, which can be a little cumbersome, and at least to me sometimes it feels a little cumbersome or difficult, you just have to rock it like this. And what's really nice is it will automatically switch it for you, and you don't have to change the orientation of your device. And there's a button in the camera settings if you want to switch it manually. But if you want to take a group shot and a bunch of people walk into the frame, it will detect it and be like, oh, you need to be here, and it will do it. Or you could just tap the button and it will do it. So that was a noticeably really big camera upgrade, and other manufacturers and companies, you need to copy that. Okay? So that was something that got me really, really excited. Okay? And the other thing was also a camera related feature. That was now the Apple devices have the ability to do dual video recording. So basically, they can record video with the front and rear facing cameras at the same time. That's similar to what you've been able to do on Samsung devices for a long time, right? And that's one of the reasons why, in terms of content creation, Samsung devices have been what I used. Because on some of my videos, when I want to demonstrate certain features and functionality, and show it on the screen, but also show y'all the types and genre of music that I like to listen to at the same time, I like to use that feature. That's why my main recording device for the channel for years was an S10, and then a Note 10, and then ultimately a S20 Plus. That's why. And now, with Apple introducing that feature, the dual camera recording feature, this makes iOS devices look more appealing to me, not just as a personal use device anymore, but also as a content creation tool. Okay? Now, you could have always used your Apple devices as a content creation tool, but for me, that dual video recording was a must. Okay? So that was the other feature that really got me excited. I was like, oh yeah. So between that and the new 1-inch square selfie camera, I was like, okay, now I'm excited to upgrade. Now, the dual recording feature, as I said earlier, that's actually chip dependent, and all Apple would have to do to get that on their older devices is write up a string of code and then push an update, and their older devices will be able to handle that. The iPhone 11, the iPhone 12, the iPhone 13, the iPhone 15, Apple processors and chips have been able to handle something like that for years, because essentially all you're doing with dual video recording is you're telling the processor, okay, you have to handle the video input and output from the front-facing camera and the rear-facing camera at the same time. And then you have to give the users the option to switch between the ultra-wide or the primary or the telephone camera, all while you're recording, and still record the front-facing camera at the same time. That's it. And if your processor and your pipeline is good enough to handle that, then it can do it. Now, it would be nice for Apple to push that update, but let's be honest, they're going to gatekeep that because they want their customers to spend as much bread as possible. They want that money right there. So although they could push a software update to filter that feature down to older devices, nah. If you want to get that, you got to upgrade to one of the new devices this year. That's just how Apple works. But this is also another feature that I say manufacturers, companies, copy that. Now, this is not something new. This is not something that Apple came up with. Samsung and Motorola and Nokia have had this feature on their devices for years. Samsung being the most popular, they've renamed it multiple times, and now they call it Director's View. I'm not sure what Motorola calls it, but it is on select Motorola devices, and it is on select Nokia devices as well. I don't even think Nokia still produces phones anymore. I think they're under the HMD banner now. But yeah, that feature is not new, but with the fact that it's now on an iPhone, that means that companies and manufacturers, you need to have that feature on your devices moving forward. And especially Google. I'm calling y'all out. Google. Y'all need to have that feature. And this is coming from a big Pixel fan. If I had that feature on my Pixel, I would be more apt to use the Pixel as a main content creation tool. So Google, put that on your device. And Google, I need more focus on video, please. Okay, please. The photos, Google, solid, rock solid. Point, shoot, great stuff. Whenever I have to take a photo and I have my Pixel on me, I know it's going to be fire. Okay? But the video performance, Google, nah, needs some work. Go back to the drawing board. Needs some work. But you need to have that dual recording feature now moving forward. Yeah. But those were the two features that I was most excited about in terms of upgrades for the iOS devices this year. And those were the two features that really got me excited to upgrade. Now, talking about more video stuff, you can see it's basically the same. Apple didn't do 8K video recording. They stuck with the 1080p 240 and 120 for slow motion, or up to 4K 60 with the front and rear facing cameras, which has always been super solid on iOS devices. Alright, so that's nothing new. They still got the stereo speakers, the slightly upgraded stereo speakers and microphones, and slightly upgraded Bluetooth. You see the differences there. Now, and I have to point this out, right? For the speakers on the Air, you actually lose stereo speaker support. I'm not going to call it dual speaker support, because for it to be... Actually, I'm not going to call it stereo speaker support. It's actually dual speaker support. Because to me, a stereo speaker means you have two front-firing speakers. One at the top, one at the bottom. Okay? This is not actually a stereo speaker setup. You got one bottom-firing speaker and you got one front-firing speaker. It's not stereo. Companies that had true stereo would be Sony with their Xperia line. That's true stereo speakers because you got two front-facing speakers. Companies that have true stereo speakers, certain Motorola devices, have true front-facing speakers. This is just a dual speaker setup. One front-firing, one bottom-firing. If you go with the iPhone Air, you don't have a dual speaker setup. You have one front-firing speaker in the earpiece. Now, everybody was in an uproar. Oh, how they going to get rid of the bottom-firing speaker? You know, it's kind of a deal breaker. Is it a deal breaker for me? No. Because if I'm being 100% honest, the only time I use my speakers is if I'm by myself. The way I was raised, you always be courteous and respectful. So the minute there's more people in the house, I'm not using my speakers. I'm going to put in a Bluetooth pair of earbuds or put on some Bluetooth headphones because, you know, I want to keep that stuff to myself and I don't want to disturb anybody. But if I got the whole house to myself, or I'm cleaning up the house and I'm the only one home, I'm going to use the speakers on my device. But the minute there's more people, or I'm out in public, putting on those Bluetooth headphones, I'm putting in those Bluetooth earbuds. So is the fact that the iPhone Air only has one speaker this year a deal breaker for me? No. My main deal breaker with the iPhone Air was the battery life. That's it. But that's the differences there. So other than the iPhone Air, all the other iPhones, even the older ones, have a dual speaker setup. Okay? So that's that. Now, let's move to what I would consider one of the most important upgrades and downgrades, and something I'm a little sus about, right? So let's talk about battery, and then we're going to talk about pricing. So you can see here, with the new iPhones, you can see the 17, you got a battery upgrade there from up to 3692 milliamp hours. You can see the 15 Plus is right here. Phenomenal battery life on that, at least on the older software. And you can see for the Pros, depending on your region, and you know I'm not too happy about this. So if you're in a region where you still get the physical SIM, you are going to get the hit in battery life because it's going to drop you down to 3998 milliamp hours. Whereas if you're in a region where you get the eSIM, you get that slightly bigger battery at 42 52 milliamp hours. Now, if you go with the Pro Max, that's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Okay? Now, I'm not going with the Pro Max this year because the difference in battery size between the 15 Plus and the 17 Pro, look how close this is. Is it a downgrade? Yes, but I think that's still more than usable. And that was another reason why it eliminated the Pro Max for me, along with the price. Okay? So, I was kind of sad to see that. I don't believe what Apple is saying because they're talking about, oh, we had to remove the SIM card because we wanted to make space for more battery. Really? Really? I don't believe that. But that's what they're saying. That's the statement they're saying, and they're sticking to it. But yeah, that's the other big difference there. But that, guys and gals, essentially goes over the key specifications that I wanted to talk about. Now let's get into pricing, and then we'll wrap this video up. Okay? So, jumping over to my main carrier and looking at the iPhone 17 here. No, I don't want to speak to customer service. Let me close that. You can see here, full retail, if I was to get the iPhone 17, okay, it would be $800 and call it $30. You know, round it to the nearest, whole dollar to make it easy. So instead of $29, call it $30. So it would be $830. Or $34.54 a month for 24 months. You can see my carrier's monthly payment agreement. They go through a company called Smart Pay. And it's a 24-month period, so 2 years. Now, that is definitely a lot better than what I would be paying ultimately for my 15 Plus. So right now for my 15 Plus, which is going to run me well over $1,100 when everything is all said and done, I am paying $47.85. I'll have the screenshot thrown up in post so y'all can see. And I've been paying this for almost 10 months. As of the end of October, it will be 10 months. So come December, that would make it a full year. Alright? But look at that price difference there. So I'll be saving a good amount of money going with the 17. And my monthly payments would be cheaper. So that's not bad. But if we jump over to the 17 Pro, which is what I'm leaning towards because it has the similar battery to the 15 Plus, check this out. So, full retail. Oh, they're out of stock right now. I'm sure they're going to be in stock when I'm ready to pick up my order when I decide. And it was in stock a few days ago before I recorded this video. But full retail, can basically call that $1,100 after taxes, maybe a little bit more. So that's basically going to be the same price that I'm going to end up paying for my 15 Plus right now. Or if we look at the monthlies, look at that, $45.79. That is a little bit cheaper than what I'm currently paying now in $47.85. So this is why I say the pros, the 17 Pro in particular, makes a lot of sense to me because I'd basically be getting a better device in all aspects, and basically I'd be paying the same money that I'm paying now. So this is why I'm leaning towards, when I'm done paying for my 15 Plus, I might just upgrade to a 17 Pro. Maybe in the blue, maybe in the orange, I'm not sure yet. But that's what I would be paying going with my main carrier, which is Straighttalk Verizon. Okay? Now, let me make some recommendations for you guys and gals. Now, This may be cheaper or more expensive if you go through your carrier, or your carrier may offer some other benefits with doing the upgrade through them. Okay? But I may also want to recommend to you guys and gals, you may want to consider going with Apple directly and using Apple's direct monthly payment financing program. Why do I say this? Apple in some cases is cheaper when you work with them directly, and this is the big part, all iPhones that you get from Apple directly are unlocked. You hear me? All iPhones that you get from Apple directly are unlocked. Okay? So you can legit take those to any carrier you want. Whereas if you did it through your carrier, you'd be locked in with your carrier for that whole payment period, or at least until you've used it enough to get the device unlocked. Now for me, I have to use my devices with my carrier for up to a year before they automatically unlock them. And then I have to make sure they're paid off. But I actually think Straighttalk Verizon is a really good carrier, and I've been with them for years, and I don't plan on going anywhere. So that's why I'm okay with upgrading my 15 Plus when the time comes to a 17 Pro and just keeping it pushing. And that, guys and gals, essentially does it for this video. So I hope you guys and gals found this video helpful. If you did, please help your boy out by giving the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. Also remember, please let me know what you think of the overall video quality, as well as the overall audio quality and the lighting for today's video. Your feedback, as always, is greatly appreciated. Also, guys and gals, let me know, are you upgrading your iPhone this year? If so, what iPhone are you upgrading to? Which iPhone are you most excited about picking up, and why? And also, and I'm going to leave this as a pinned comment, do you believe that Apple should release a software update to give you the feature of dual video recording on your older iOS devices, especially considering the older chips can support that processing power no problems? If you do, please give the comment that I'm going to pin down below in the comments a thumbs up. Okay? Because I don't see any reason why Apple just doesn't release that software update to give the dual recording feature to all of their devices. I mean, I know why they're doing it. They want you to upgrade your device so they can get more money. But come on now. Come on now. But if you agree with that statement, go ahead and give that pinned comment down below in the comments a thumbs up. Hopefully we can get like 100 thumbs up, or maybe even 1,000. And maybe this video gets in front of the right eyes and Apple would take note. I don't know. I'm a small content creator. I focus on budget products. I don't know. But it is what it is. But let me know down below, which iPhone are you excited to upgrade to this year? And give that comment a thumbs up if you agree with it. And let me know, why are you upgrading your iPhone this year? And what upgrade are you upgrading to? And what iPhone are you coming from? So before I upgraded to my 15 Plus, I actually was using an iPhone 11 for the longest time before I upgraded to my 15 Plus. So when I'm ready to upgrade, I'll be coming from a 15 Plus and going into a 17 Pro. But what are you upgrading from? And what are you excited about going to? Let's get into a nice, respectful conversation about that down below in the comments. I'll meet you guys and gals down there. Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you guys and gals in the next one. Peace.